As this is now part 5 of 6 in the series, I suggest you start with part 1. You can find the link in the description. Part 1 talks about chunking up and down, about trance states and frames. Part 2 talks about pacing and leading, how people are selfish, about the VAKOG modalities and Milton Erickson. Part 3 talks about language patterns like spatial, temporal, and other presuppositional language like cause and effect and complex equivalence, grifters, energy healers, pattern interrupts and fractionation, storytelling and metaphor, and subject validation. And part 4 talks about cold reading, empathic statements, the emotional refractory period, the three brains, cognitive flow, embedded commands, ambiguity, and mirror neurons. Today I'm going to talk about cults, self-delusion, negatives, anchors, denial, pattern interrupts, and compliance. All of these techniques and more are used by cults. They first try to isolate you from your friends and your peers, and they try to get you into unfamiliar circumstances and environments that overwhelm you and wear away at your self-control mechanism. Everyone has a breaking point. Some of the main things that will help us to resist for longer are restful sleep, adequate blood sugar, and stress reduction. As a herbalist, I'd say it's possible to get a greater resistance to influence techniques by improving your sleep, your blood sugar, and stress resistance through diet and various adaptogenic herbs. Like I mentioned earlier, not all of the grifters know that they're grifting. Some just naturally believe the pseudoscience that they're spouting. Others are conscious, but some have been convinced by others. For example, if they spend thousands to do some pseudoscience energy healing course, and the instructor, knowingly or unknowingly, uses some of the influence techniques, through the previously discussed process of confirmation bias, and the frame control of the events changing their perceptual filters, they'll buy in to their own bullshit. They'll take it on just like a fundamental religious belief. Any questioning of their belief will make them either dismissive or angry. If they're unwilling to have their methods questioned, be weary. If they're only relying on cherry-picking anecdotal reports of their success, be weary. If they keep saying how they're the best, be weary. The people who are the best don't need to keep saying they're the best. This should be a big red flag. If in doubt, try using the meta-model questions, or just asking them how do they know their methods work. See how long it takes for them to give an emotional outburst, as you should now be aware of how to break down their language of beliefs to find their distortions, generalizations, and deletions in their own belief process. And realize it just takes one exception to the rule to sow the seed of doubt in them for their belief system to then slowly start to crumble. Farsing is the way the unconscious mind can't process a negative. This can be seen in children who've yet to develop the critical factor that an adult has. This is also a way to influence and to program the unconscious. It revolves around the brain's inability to process a negative. For example, if you tell a child not to jump in a puddle, the first thing they do is jump in the puddle. If you tell someone, don't think of a pink elephant, you first must create the image of the pink elephant before you can try to ignore it. Once this image is created in the mind, half of the work is done. When all the other distractions and hypnotic techniques are stacked on top of this, it can allow for a thought to go in and become unchallenged in a way that you're not aware of. Some other examples would be, you could say, you don't have to believe me. First, at some level, they will believe you before then trying to disregard you. Or you could say, you don't have to research this to realize that you've been tricked. This statement would actually encourage them to research it in their own time. The con man might say, you don't have to believe that I have magical powers, that I'm communicating with aliens or the spirits to find truth in my messages. Another amazing yet equally terrifying phenomena of our bodies is anchoring. We're anchoring machines. This is like Pavlov's dog, the classic ringing the bell and the dog starts to salivate. We constantly anchor emotional experiences to us every day. We can use this to our advantage by anchoring positive feelings to various fingers, for example, and then touching our finger to activate that feeling. This can even be used as a hypnotic phobia cure, to swish the negative phobia anchor with a positive emotional anchor to erase the negative emotional charge from the phobia. Where this gets creepy is in conversation. If you're describing an experience and it makes you emotional, you might unconsciously make a gesture, and if the person watching you copies that gesture, they can then trigger that emotional state in you without you being aware. In the business world, they might say, "Tell me when you made a great deal," and as you're telling them, you might look up to the right, for example, and make a certain gesture or movement. When they're trying to sell something to you, if they stand where you looked and they make the same gesture or motion, they can trigger that same sensation in your body. You'll get that same emotion, and this could be enough to push you to buy their product. You might wonder why people don't see how obvious some of these techniques are, how they never seem to wake up from their delusions, no matter how much information you present to them. One reason for this is when new information comes in that challenges your identity and beliefs, you'll feel attacked, and this triggers reactance, making you disregard any new information. The mind will actually erase any contradictory information. One example of this is when your best friend, who you've known all your life and you trust, tells you that your wife is cheating on you. Even though you know he wouldn't lie to you, the truth is too painful as it challenges your beliefs, your identity, so your brain treats it as a potential attack and it just erases it from your memory. This can also be seen in martial arts, where a martial artist who's convinced that pressure points don't work can be knocked down with a pressure point and then erase the experience from his mind as to not challenge his own belief system. Another phenomena seen in martial arts, and it's also adapted to conversational hypnosis, is the previously mentioned pattern interrupt. In Russian Systema martial arts, they learn how to first take a punch. Then, when they're being hit, they move their body as if they were being hit. The person throwing the punch sees them reacting in the appropriate way, but can't understand why they're not being hurt. As a result of this pattern interrupt, their brain short-circuits for a second. They go into confusion and can easily be taken out. This pattern interrupt technique can be used by stage hypnotists by interrupting a normal process like a handshake to bring their client into a state of confusion, which they can then direct into a deep trance more easily. This is where the grifters might use things like making a loud noise, pretending to be the spirits or the angels, or to be aligning some chakra or some energy. But it can all be broken down to hypnotic pattern interrupts and suggestion and misdirection. You can begin to become aware, now that you know, that when these people try to disrupt the flow of a conversation, it might be some type of pattern interrupt, and once you become aware, you can resist it. The grifter or the scammer might also do some sort of compliance test. A phenomena called the law of compounding states the more something is done, the more likely you are to do it again and again, and the stronger the effect will be. So they might say, "Sit here, put your jacket over there, use this pen, take this drink." All these small commands get you to comply, and each time that you comply, you become more likely to further comply. You see, if they tried to suggest or command something that was too big at first, you just reject it. So instead, they slowly increase their compliance tests over time. But now, again, that you can become aware, you can interrupt this pattern. These type of things can be exploited by the sociopath, and this is how they'll find your boundaries and keep slowly infringing on them. And each time you don't call them out on their small infringement, it allows them to increase their hold over you in the future, as they slowly break you down. So to protect yourself from this, you need to become aware of your boundaries and have the strength to stand your ground and not let people slowly wear you down or walk all over you. Once the final part of the series is uploaded, you'll find the link in the description. For more on herbs, supplements and natural treatment plans, check out my website.